Well, welcome back everybody. Today I'm at Lake Samsonvale. We're going to take some nice photos today. So the plan for today is to take photos at sunset, and as you can see just in the corner there, the sun's just blaring away. No clouds in the sky, so sunset itself is going to be boring. So what we're going to do is like a reverse sunset, where we're going to photograph 180 degrees opposite the setting sun. There's some nice sticks in the water there, and we're going to get that golden glow on the sticks just before the setting sun, and we're going to use most likely a 10 stop ND filter to just smooth the water out and get like a sublime image. Should be beautiful. So I'm using my Osmo mobile gimbal today, since I can't use the Sony ZV-1. I'll just push through these trees here. Look at that. Now, since I've been here a couple of times, I'll walk down to the other spot, but I'm really liking this spot here. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. We'll just get a little bit closer. So this is one of the subjects that I was thinking of, but you can see all the reeds in the water there. The problem is when we use a 10 stop filter just before sunset, this is just going to be all blurry matter and it'll detract from our image. So we'll pass up on this one and we'll just walk down a little bit further down. So we might have to be very careful and not wait till the last minute to take our photos. Now Lake Samsonvale is a great spot. There is just so many areas to take photos of. So this is our little posse here. Just put my tripod down. And this is what we're going to photograph. There's no reeds. There's a couple of little water lily pads just to the left of this bigger clump of branches there. But you can see we've got a bit of breeze around, probably about 10, 15 knots, little ripples on the water. Really, to get the maximum of this, I'm going to have to use a 10 stop to really smooth it out. And that's what we're going to do today. So as you can see, quite a lot of ripples there. The sun is over on this direction here, 4:30 now, and it's just beating down. So we'll get set up and we'll get right back into it. So in my office, things didn't go to plan today. Everything was working fine until I set up to do the sunset video. And I thought that my Samsung S10 was recording the video properly, but it wasn't. The video is unusable, and I didn't realize that until the video was finished and I was back home looking at it. If you aren't aware, my Sony ZV-1, which is the camera that I use now to do all my YouTube tutorial content, died about a week ago when I was recording another video at the Pine River. So I'm having to rely on my Samsung S10. So I took some very nice photos and I'm going to share them with you, and also how I set up my camera for this tutorial. So this video tutorial was not about photographing sunset itself. I wasn't going to be facing the western horizon. I was going to be facing opposite. This is what I was going to photograph. There's a very big clump of dead branches on the left and a smaller clump on the right. The light is just bouncing off the side of these branches. And this is what I want to capture in long exposure format. So at least 1 to 2 minutes, even more, on a long exposure. Because I want to show that sometimes, even on a bland day, we can still get epic images. You just have to think outside the box. So I was shooting with my Nikon D500, the Nikon 18 to 140mm lens, and I'd hooked up my timer remote, because to do long exposures I'm going to need the time remote. So today I was using 3 filters: a polarizing filter, a 3-stop medium grade filter, and then a 10 stop neutral density filter. The polarizing filter is a NISI filter and it's part of a whole system. So we'll put the polarizer on first. and it just screws on like this. So when we use a polarizing filter, we can adjust it two ways. If I was shooting a waterfall or a creek and I wanted to see like through the water, I would adjust the polarizing filter so I could see through the water. This is the main point of a polarizing filter. But today I didn't want that. I was using the polarizing filter basically to balance out the whole exposure, but I adjusted it so I could see through my LCD screen. I could see the reflections of the water, and I kept adjusting it until I got really nice reflections, because the idea was to get the reflections off these dead trees onto the water. So I adjusted the wheels here until I got that right. So now that my polarizing filter is on, I can go ahead and set up my camera. I didn't like 18 mils, so I zoomed in to 26 mils, and my focus point was the big clump of tree on the left. Now for the rest of the camera, I am on a 2-second timer delay, even though I'm using the timer remote. The timer remote will be good when I'm doing the long exposure. The 2-second timer at the start is good. It just gives me 2 seconds after I have pressed the shutter button. My white balance is sunny or daylight. It's very good for this time of the day. I was also using back button focusing because this is how I take all my photos, and my picture profile is landscape. So before I go ahead and put the other filters on, I took a test shot, and this is the image that I took. It was at 26 mils, 30th of a second, f11, ISO 100. Now that I have this test shot, I can go ahead and put the Nissi 3-stop medium grad. This filter holder here has 3 slots. Because I'm using a 10-stop filter, I have to keep the first slot here free, and the 3-stop medium grad will go on the second slot. So I slot it in like so. When we put it on here, there is 2 little teeth here. They're very hard to see, but they're very small. You have to be very careful when you put it on that they actually latch in. If they don't latch in, it'll look like it's actually holding, but it can fall. Believe me, it's happened to me, and it's very painful when you lose a glass filter. Put the camera into live view, and then I adjusted the filter until it was where I want to be. And with the medium grad, I just adjusted so that it would just be over the sky and just bordering on the horizon. Now, I adjusted my camera so I would have a correct exposure. And my exposure was 1/8 of a second. So we went from 30th of a second to 1/8 of a second with the medium grad filter. So now that I have my exposure of 1/8 of a second, I can work out what the exposure length is going to be with the 10-stop filter. So I grabbed the app, my Liebig Stopper app, and it has 6, 10 and 15 ND filters. So we're using the 10-stop, so I clicked on the 10-stop filter and I rotated it until I saw 1/8 of a second. And at 1/8 of a second, the corresponding aperture for the 10-stop filter is 2 minutes. So now I can put the 10-stop filter on my camera and set the timer remote to 2 minutes, and I'm going to get a correct exposure. So we'll do that. But I don't like doing this on the camera, because if I do this, especially with a lens like this, you're putting a lot of pressure on the front, and you mightn't realize that you've adjusted your composition. And because you've put a 10-stop on, you cannot see through the screen here. So I like taking it off like that. I know where the filter is sitting here, so I'm just going to lower it down a bit. And these 6, 10 and 15 stop filters have got a gauze around there. And the idea is that you slot it in so that you don't see light through the filter. So we slide it down like this until we don't see any light around, so that all we're seeing is gauze all around. Beautiful, that's nice like that. Now I can just slide this other filter back up in its place where it was. Now I can put the whole lot back up here. So now I'm ready to take a photo. But before I take a photo, even though my timer remote is set, there's 2 things that I have to do on the camera. One, I have to change from 1/8 of a second, and I have to rotate the shutter dial to bulb. The second thing that you have to do is you've got to close the viewfinder. If you don't close the viewfinder, you're going to get a photo with a lot of haze. It's not going to be good. So now we have everything set up. Now we can take our exposure. I pressed the time remote and away we went. So this is the resulting image at 120 seconds. The water now is very smooth. It looks really nice, and we can start seeing some of that nice glow on the trees. And this is what I wanted. I just wanted the glow. So this image was taken at 7 minutes past 5. Sunset was at 5:30. But I knew I was going to lose the sun at around 25 past 5 because there's a small mountain range on the horizon. So I decided to wait about 10 minutes and take the next shot because I knew as the sun got closer to the horizon I would get more of that golden light, and that was the goal today, to get some really nice golden light on these trees. So at 17 minutes past 5 I took the filter holder off, I took the 10-stop filter out, left the 3-stop medium grad on, put everything back on, and I took a test shot. This is the image at 1/5 of a second. This long exposure I want to be very long. So I was hoping for around a 3 to 4 minute long exposure. I increased my aperture from f11 to f16. On those settings it gave me 1/5 of a second the correct exposure. So now I knew that I had to dial in 1/5 of a second to give me the correct exposure. I took the filter holder off again, put the 10-stop on, so now I knew that I had to set the app to 1/5 of a second, and at 1/5 of a second it gave me 240 seconds, 4 minutes. This is exactly what I wanted, a super long exposure. So now everything was set. The only thing that I had to do now was just reset my timer remote from 2 minutes to 4 minutes and take the shot. And this is the image that I got. 26 mils, 240 seconds, f16, ISO 100. The water now is just baby smooth. There's some nice glow on the sticks, because remember, this is just a JPEG. The raw file is going to look much nicer. So I'm really happy with this 4-minute exposure because this is what I was after today. I knew sunset wasn't going to be good. I was just concentrating just to have some nice warm glow on these sticks. So today, this is what I want to show. I want to show that when you go out for a sunset and there's no clouds on the horizon, the only thing that you could do is just wait for twilight or look around and see if there is the opportunity of just photographing the warm rays of sun reflecting off a subject. They could be a building or whatever. So in closing, here are the 2 long exposures I took. The first one is the JPEG and the second one is the raw file edited in Adobe Lightroom. So thanks for watching. If you found value in this video, give me a big thumbs up. Stay safe, enjoy your photography, and I'll see you next time.